Hello, everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline, and as always, I have a great show for you today. My guest tonight is Betsey Kulakowski. She is the author of the Veritas Codex series. It is a paranormal thriller series that she's written. Before we get to her, though, got a few announcements. My friends over at Wicked Cat Clothing, spooky season doesn't last just a month. Shop Wicked Cat Clothing year-round to get your horror, paranormal, spooky, and Halloween apparel. Go to wickedcatclothing.com. Shop apparel and accessories now and save 30% off with the code FIRESIDE30. We're also trying out this new partnership with Newsly. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening. You can follow any topic as specific as you'd like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin, or even the Kardashians. It'll find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. They also have podcasts, so explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. My show, Fireside Paranormal Podcast, is there too. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use promo code FIRESIDE, where the eyes are ones. I'll also put that in the description, and you receive 1 month free premium subscription. I also want to give a shout out for American Paranormal Magazine. If you go to paranormalzine.com, you can check out all the latest issues. I believe they're going online. You're going to be able to get digital issues as well, so that's really fun. If you go to the website, go down to the bottom, there is a voting feature where you're voting for the Paranormal Investigator of the Year. It's open to authors and podcasters, so if you want to throw my name in there, I'd really appreciate it. Our featured story this week comes in from Brandon from Piedmont Lake.
My name's Brandon Falcone, Piedmont Lake, Ohio. I had 3 separate encounters. Well, maybe 4 if you think about it. The fourth one, you didn't see anything, but you heard it and you felt it.
Yeah.
Like just a weird noise, like a guttural sound. Like you felt it. Well, one night we was fishing, me and a group of friends, fishing out Reynolds Road, Piedmont Lake, and it was foggy out. We heard this splashing, like on the right side of us, maybe 100 yards out. It sounded on the side of the water.
Yeah.
And then something was doing it on the other side. I thought maybe it was just big fish were spawning, because sometimes big carp will spawn and make that flashing around. It was about that time of year. And I had a mastiff with me. I had a South African mastiff. She was about 150 pounds, super protective, and she was spooked. Like, she wouldn't growl.
Really?
Yeah,
she was kind of on
Yeah, she was on me. Like, wouldn't get away from me. You couldn't pry her off me with a pry bar. And then we heard this sound, like a deer snorting, and it was real deep, but you could feel it. And I was like, okay. And then my dog really started acting kind of crazy. And I was like, well, maybe something don't want us here. Maybe a bear. We heard something shaking a tree, kind of like a small tree. You heard that whipping around. I was like, well, that doesn't sound right. We got to maybe just leave. And so we're packing it in. We had 2 carloads of people. And on the right, we were passing this spot in like a fielded area, and I swear to Christ, something out of the fog come running on 2 legs toward the car, and it was moving.
Really? How big?
It was big. It was big. I was just seeing the silhouette of something big running through the fog, and that was the first experience we had. And the second one, after that, I told myself, you know what? Something's out there.
Right.
I want to start carrying a pistol. I carried my .45. I wouldn't want to shoot one, but...
I mean, if it's coming at you.
Yeah. Well, one night I was fishing. This was a couple years later. And we didn't have any other experiences, I kind of forgot about it. I was fishing by myself because nobody wanted to go, and I was fishing that Reynolds Road, just a spot a little bit ways, not too far, maybe 1/8 of a mile away from the other spot where we had the encounter the first time a few years prior to. And I felt it was midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I swear to Christ I felt something like, that feeling you get when something's watching you.
Oh, yeah.
I turned around, and there was a hillside. You crossed the road, and there was a steep hillside, and I seen 2 eyes looking at me. And I was like, well, something big standing there up over the hill. You just see the eyes. I had a flashlight on my hat, one of the clip on the bill of your hat. And I turned that light on, and I just see the eyes, and like well, maybe that's an owl, because it was up there pretty high. So I took a rock, and I threw a rock, not at it, but just in that direction. It just stared at me. So I was like, okay, you want to sit there and stare at me? I pulled up my .45 and pulled around into the hillside, and it took off out of there making like a scared the shit out of me.
Yeah?
It went running the other way. You could hear it just tearing ass, screaming, and I don't know what it was, but Like I said, all I seen was the eyes. Well, after that, I was like, I'm done fishing out here for a while.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And then several years later, it was probably 4 or 5 years later after that. This is all, it started in 2008, and then the first one was in like '08, the first experience, and the other one was like maybe 2014. And the third one, I'm going to say maybe 2017, 16. I was with my sister. I took her fishing, and she used to give me the biggest hard time about this.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bigfoot? Just picking on me.
Yeah.
Honestly, before I had all these experiences, I was the same way. All these hunters out there, you figure somebody would have bagged one. But they're fast. I mean, I swear to God, on my mother's eyes, we're sitting there fishing, and I heard hooting and hollering. We're out Egypt Valley fishing, not Reynolds Road, Egypt Valley. If you know where the wooden bridge is out Egypt Valley, we're fishing off that bridge fishing. And I swear on my mother's eyes, something started hooting and hollering and screaming a bunch, like on the right side of the distance off that bridge out that way. I was like, what is that? And I thought maybe kids, because it was summertime. Kids drinking, partying, whatever, being loud, stupid. Well, something in the other way started doing the same damn thing. And I was like, what is that? I was like, something told me we should just leave because I was starting to get a little uneasy. And as we were leaving, and I let my sister drive because I had a few cold beers in me, and I don't drink and drive. She's driving, and just ahead where you can see as you're heading toward, say you're heading toward 800 on that old dirt road, something ran from the left side of the road to the right side, took 3 steps running and had that road clear.
Oh, gosh.
I swear to God on it. She stopped the car dead nuts in the middle of the road and looked at me, and she says, did you see that? And I said, yeah, something went running, and it was big, ran from the left side of the road to the right side, took 3 steps running and was gone.
Wow.
And then
That's big.
Yeah, I mean, it was big. But it was just weird stuff out there. And then one night we was at a pond, kind of in that area, but off the beaten trail. We didn't see anything, but you heard this, like, guttural sound, just a weird noise. I don't know what it was. And you could feel, like, the percussion from it. I was like, we're just going to leave. We're just going to leave.
Yeah, that's enough for me.
Yeah, it's as fast as they are, though. People were like, they're fast. I mean, and they're quiet. If they don't want you to hear them, like I said, that one was right behind me, and I didn't hear anything. Probably sitting 50, 60 feet behind me over up on the hillside. After that, I was like, oh, I'm kind of done fishing here for a while. But, yeah, that's what happened to me. Everybody laughs at me when I talk about it, but I know what I've seen and heard. And we never smelled anything, though. I heard people say they stink, but maybe the wind wasn't blowing that way. But they're out there. Grassman's out there.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to my story, though, guys.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I do appreciate your story. And if you out there want your story to be one of our featured stories, make sure you send it in to firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. You can either type it out or record it and send it in, and we'll get it on the show. All right, I want to get to my guest tonight. Join me by the fire as we welcome Betsey Kulakowski. She is the author of the Paranormal Thriller series, The Veritas Codex. Betsey, you with us?
I'm here.
Betsey, tell me about these books. You have 4 of these out now?
Yeah, I do. The Veritas Codex series follows television investigator Lauren Grayson and her team as they go on the quest to discover the truth about the world's greatest mysteries and legends and unsolved mysteries. It follows the story with the main character, Dr. Lauren Grayson. She's a biological anthropologist. And they kind of start out in the Pacific Northwest on the hunt for Bigfoot, and in the middle of the investigation, Lauren disappears and she's gone for 10 days and really has no idea what's happened to her or where she's been. So the real mystery becomes what happened to Lauren, but all the evidence suggests she was abducted by Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
Bigfoot, was it aliens? Penny, she can't remember.
Oh, well, is Bigfoot an alien? Because then they're both right.
It could be. You never know with my books.
So you start off right off the bat with a Bigfoot kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. You. But we're saying maybe because we want suspense, right?
Exactly.
So like, where does the book go? I mean, is it if she gets kidnapped right off the bat? I mean, is the book about like her time with maybe Bigfoot?
Well, we have to find that out, but we do want to go and find out exactly what happened to her. She's injured, so there's some healing that has to happen, and there's a relationship that they're trying to keep hidden with one of her co-hosts, and so she's really trying to keep that on the back burner. And of course, mayhem eventually will ensue, and everything comes out into the public.
And
so,
you have
the media, they've got to get in on everything. Headlines. TV hosts abducted by Bigfoot.
With your books, do they all follow that? Is it the same character, her TV series?
Yeah, it follows Lauren and her team throughout their careers. The second book, they get into the Mayan apocalypse. It happens about 2012 is the timeline there.
Okay.
We know the world's not going to end. She knows the world's not going to end. She's a scientist. She's not buying into this. But the network is dead set on having a television program set to cover the Mayan apocalypse because they want to get in on the hype. Turns out that, of course, the world doesn't come to an end, but they run into another mystery where there is some missing treasures from a museum, and they get on the case of a international crime ring. So that doesn't always end well either, does it?
All right, that sounds really neat, Betsey. With the books, do they all have like a different paranormal theme? Like each book has its own, We do get into different investigations with each book. In book one, we learn that Lauren has a brother who is a telescope engineer for NASA, and he has always teased her and tried to one-up her in everything. He's always said he's going to find aliens before she does. So in the third book, we get into looking for an alien signal that he's picked up, and they have to work together, and they're going to have to find a way to get past all their old hurts. So there's some personal stories in there. And then by the fourth book, they're looking for missing pages of the Devil's Grimoire, which is the Devil's Codex, which is a real book. Oh, really?
So I try to base my stories on things that are really going on in science, in history. I like to pull old lore and old mythology. So every book has its own investigation. There's some underlying themes that run through the whole series, but it follows Lauren and the characters throughout.
All right, so I gotta ask, and a lot of folks, always think with like authors, it's like, okay, what got you into this? Why paranormal for you? Why these books? What is it that really implanted on your heart to put this story out?
I have always loved the paranormal. When I was a little girl, I lived in the Pacific Northwest when I was very young. I was like 2 or 3 years old for a very short period of time. So Bigfoot was the first monster I ever really knew anything about. So that was my monster growing up. I always loved Bigfoot. And I would read everything I could get my hands on. I would watch every documentary I could find, programs like In Search of, Ripley's Believe It or Not, the old episode of The $6 Million Man had Bigfoot in it. I'll never forget that one. That was my favorite episode. So I've always been really interested in this. And not just Bigfoot, but some of the other mysteries that I'm pulling in are always things that I've been interested in, that I've done a lot of reading about. And I love history. I'm a family genealogist. So anytime I can sit down and research a new legend and find a way to weave that into my stories, I'm on board.
Oh, I bet. That's all really like neat. And I want to ask, with you being from the Pacific Northwest, right?
Right.
So I am like opposite end of the spectrum, right? I'm on the other side of the country.
Right.
So what is the mindset? Because like here, we got our own, I'm in West Virginia. We got our own monsters in the woods, right?
Right.
So like when you talk about Bigfoot up there, do they talk about it like, yeah, it's really up there? Or they're like, oh, those loonies that talk about Bigfoot. Like, is it kind of fringe there?
You get a little bit of everything up there. Now, I lived there when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I moved away, and I've been in Oklahoma a majority of my life. And we have stories of Bigfoot here in Oklahoma. There's a Bigfoot festival here. But I actually went back to the Pacific Northwest last October. I have a friend that lives up there, so we went to visit, and we did some hiking around Mount St. Helens, which is where the Veritas Codex is set.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to learn the legends from the people in the area. And I talked to people. I asked people out hiking, especially if they were from that area. I said, have you seen anything? Have you run across anything you can't explain? And I got a mixture of things like, oh, yeah, no, that's not real. It's not a big deal. And I've had other people that were like, you know what? I don't usually tell people about this because I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy. But this is what happened to me. We've had rocks thrown at us, or we found footprints when we were out hiking, or,
oh, wow.
We've run across something that we can't explain. So, it kind of runs the gambit. Everywhere you go, there are people who have differing opinions about that. But I love to talk to the locals. I love to talk to people when we travel, just to find out the stories from their point of view. And sometimes some of those can work their way into a book.
Now, did you do the same kind of research for like the aliens or the devil book?
I didn't have the opportunity to necessarily go to some of these places. I did for the Jaguar Queen. It's partially set at Chichen Itza. And even it was after I had written it that I got a chance to go to Chichen Itza, but it was before I published it. So I had an opportunity to walk the grounds, to go to the site, to see what it was really like, the things you don't find in a travel guide or in a book or on Google Earth, which I'm a big fan of Google Earth. With the Monk's Grimoire, I have friends that live in part of Slovenia where the book is set. I actually had one of my friends I featured in the book. He's like, put me in the book. So I did. And he had a lot of fun with that. So he helped me with the language and some of the cultural things and the travel and making sure I got things right. Because I always want to try to respect the culture and the legend of wherever I'm writing. I want to get it right. So he was very helpful with that. So sometimes when I can't do my own research, I rely on other people too.
Now, the Jaguar Queen, is that the second book?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's set all on the Mayan calendar. So you got to get some firsthand experience with all that down there. Is there anything that you changed with your book after visiting? Because you said it was before it went to publishing, right?
Yeah, I did. It was before I published it. That was actually the trip that got me my publishing contract. That's another story we'll circle back to.
Oh, wow.
I had an opportunity to go and see it, and I didn't expect it to be quite so touristy, because you can't get into the site without walking past the table of all the vendors, selling their wares and selling their, Jaguar printed T-shirts and obsidian glass circles that you can use to watch, eclipses and things like that with. So there was some tchotchkes I came home with that, I didn't even think to put in the book because I had never seen, what the site was actually like. I'm assuming it's all old ruins and, I didn't expect the grass to be completely walked away by tourists and things like that. So I did pick up little nuggets that found their way into the book just based on the things I learned while I was there, talking to some of the local guides and some of the local people that work there. My Spanish isn't that great, so I was really lucky to find a couple of people who were bilingual and spoke really good English. I only know it when somebody's cussing at me in Spanish.
I know what that word means.
Yeah, I know that one.
That's got to be something that's really, I don't know. I feel like that would be like a life-changing, moment. Seeing these ruins,
yeah.
And because if I remember right, it's quite the walk to get there, right?
It is, and it was one of those bucket list trips because we were actually on a cruise. That was in February 2020, right before the bottom fell out with the pandemic. And it was a writing cruise, and I had gone with the intent of pitching a manuscript to a publisher. We kind of workshop the book and, put your marketing plan together and figure out all the plot holes. And, we had a couple mentors that we worked with. And then we got to go to the site. So we got off the boat in Cozumel, and we had to take a bus all the way into where Chichen Itza is, which is pretty far inland, about an hour and a half bus ride. And I think probably my biggest disappointment was we didn't get to spend more time there because we only had about 45 minutes once we got there.
Oh gosh,
to
yeah,
actually
I bet.
go through and see. You travel for an hour and a half to get there, and you think I want to spend a couple hours here. I want to wander on my own, but no, you don't get to do that when you go with a tour. But definitely one of those places I want to go back.
Yeah, because the cruise would leave you.
Yeah, exactly. The bus, that ship's not going to wait for you. But that was the trip that actually got me my publisher because that was the first book I pitched was the Veritas Codex.
So you pitched the second book first?
No, I pitched the first book in the writing retreat, but we just happened to go to the site of the second book, got to go with the publisher. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that. Let me show you what my book's about. Come with me.
This is going to be the second book. And I'm sure by the end of the day, he was tired of hearing all about the second book.
Now, are there going to be more books?
Yes, I'm actually in the process of writing the 10th book, but I've already finished the 11th. I don't write in order.
Oh, I reckon.
I tend to write in circles. I'm a very circular thinker. So I wrote books 1, 2, and 3, and then I had 5, 7, and 8. And then I went back in and I wrote book 4 after I got my publishing contract. I wrote it. It was a rainy weekend. I sat on the back patio with a cup of coffee and my laptop, and I wrote half that book in a weekend.
Oh, wow.
And so I finished the whole thing in 23 days because I was so inspired. I was so I knew everything that had to happen in that book from the minute I started. So I was really lucky in that aspect that I got that one out quite so quickly because we were still in the process of getting book 1 ready to go.
Now, why jump to 11? Like, how do you know that that's not the 8th book?
This is one that I started writing it not knowing it was part of the series, and then realized halfway through, like, oh wait, this is my end game.
Oh.
And I had to go back in and tweak it just a little bit to make sure that I covered some of the plot points. But that way, I kind of knew where I was writing to as I'm working on some of these other books to fill in the gaps. So I kind of know where things are going to at least end in this evolution. I don't really see it as being the end because I can't end on an uneven number for one thing.
So it could be book 13, right?
There could be more. I probably won't do 13. I'm pretty superstitious. So then I could probably do 12. Yeah, although 11 is an angelic number, I could kind of do that maybe, but we'll see. I have always intended that there will be other evolutions of the series involving some of the other characters.
So where does the inspiration for the main character come from? Do you write like it's you?
Not really. Lauren Grayson, I wanted a strong female protagonist, somebody who was really smart, well-educated. I, at the time, when I started writing it, didn't have any kind of a degree or anything like that. She has a PhD in biological anthropology. She's kind of a mix of some people that I know as far as the physical appearance. Mm-hmm. But as far as her smarts and her attitude, she is a little bit of me, but to a higher degree. She's much more snarky and, she's one of those people, when she gets her mindset on something, she does not give up on it until she finds out the answer. And sometimes I'm not quite that ambitious.
And I've always wondered with people that write series books with characters that, obviously you're thinking in detail of every character in these books. Mm-hmm. Okay, you think of like an actor who's doing, what is that called? Character acting? Method acting?
Uh-huh. Method acting.
Method acting, where they like live that, like you were almost doing that with each character in that book to be able to write a series based on these characters. Like, how attached do you get to them?
I'm pretty attached to the main characters. If anything were to happen to one of them, I think I'd take it pretty hard.
It's not like one of them George R.R. Martins where you're just like, well, this is my favorite character. Let me kill him off.
Yeah, I'm not a George R.R. Martin type of author. I don't want to kill off my babies. Now, some of the side characters, those are written intentionally to be expendable.
Those are the red shirts.
You gotta have a bad guy in there somewhere. Yeah, definitely gotta have a red shirt.
Now, what other kind of paranormal entities, we'll say, what else jumps in through your books, or what do you have planned? Like, do they get into like some haunted mansions? Do they get into?
Oh yeah.
Attacked by mermaids?
I've done some paranormal. I've done some paranormal investigations. I've done some ghost hunting, and I've done, the Bigfoot investigations. But the next book is going to go into the Knights Templar and some of the legends with the missing holy relics.
Oh, wow.
We're going to do Bermuda Triangle at some point. We're going to go visit the Stanley Hotel. It's the one haunted hotel I have not been able to bring myself to walk into. I've sat in the parking lot a number of times, and I just cannot bring myself to walk in the door.
Really?
So we're going to go visit that, yeah.
All right, so what is it about the place that holds you back?
I really am not sure because, like I said, I've stayed at plenty of other haunted hotels. I've been to the Steelbach, I've been to the Strader, I've been to a number of them here. We have a couple of haunted hotels in Oklahoma that I actually had one that I inspected, and we had some really weird things happen with the construction crews downtown at the Skirvin Hotel. Water getting turned on when there's no possible way you could even get to a sink because we had everything sealed off. Power tools that weren't plugged in turning on. Just really strange things. So I'm not really sure what it is about the Stanley. I don't know if there's a dark shadow over it or if there's just something in my brain that's just not letting me walk past that threshold. I don't know if it's just intuition or if I just know that there's really something going on there that I just haven't been able to put my finger on. But I've been there many times. We go to Colorado on a regular vacation at least once or twice every 2 or 3 years. And I've been in the parking lot and just could not bring myself to go in.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. Like, how far is that from you? Like, you've driven out to it, so you've seen it, you've looked at it, you've been in the parking lot.
Here.
How
yeah,
far?
it's about 13 hours from my house. So
Ooh. Yeah, so that's not a small trip.
Not a jaunt. Exactly.
So, do you think you're actually going to go inside before you write it?
I've already written it, so no, I can't say that. But before I publish it, I want to be able to go in there just once, have a drink in the bar, nothing else.
You're going to say, "Wow, it doesn't look anything like what I wrote."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen enough pictures and videos from people who are doing tours and ghost hunts in there, but there's nothing like going there yourself and seeing it before you try to write it in detail.
That's pretty awesome. That's very interesting. I wonder what it is. Do you feel like you're sensitive to some degree or an empath?
I think I must be to a certain degree. I tend to consider myself more weather sensitive than anything. I have had some premonitions about some major tornadoes before they hit. We had a big one that hit here May 3rd of 1999. It was an F5 and it killed quite a few people, and it was an inopportune storm. It hit right at rush hour traffic. And I had a very detailed dream about it the night before.
Oh.
We had 2 days, day after, one after the other in 2008, May 8th and 9th. We had 2 tornadoes back to back that went across the same path, and I had dreams about them the night before. And then we had a tornado on May 20th. I guess we just had the anniversary of that one in 2013. And I had dreams about it before it happened. So that's really the only times I've really felt like I was like, you know what, I'm not as accurate as the National Weather Service, but when I start to have dreams like that, I try to pay attention to them because I know something's up.
Well, you figure like the first time,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, you roll over to your significant other, "Hey, honey, I had this crazy dream," and then it happened, right?
Yeah.
So when you had the second
dream, I told my mother
dream,
all about it the day, but that evening we actually were on our way to a hockey game because we had season tickets for our local hockey team, and it was the playoffs. And I had told my mother this dream in detail. I said, "This is everything that happened in my dream." She goes, "Well, we have bad weather tonight coming." And I said, "Yeah, I've been watching it this afternoon." And as things happened that evening, it was exactly the way I had described it to her.
Oh, wow.
Almost to what people said to us and what we did and what we had to do, because we had to go get evacuated downstairs. And she's looking at me going, "You are freaking me out. You are freaking out." She must have said that 100 times if she said it once. And if you think you're freaked out, imagine how I feel.
Right, yeah. Final destination kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Now, when you had the second dream, did everybody take you seriously then? Were you like, "Hey, I just had another one"?
Yeah, my friends that are storm chasers are like, "Okay, we want to know anytime you have dreams like this because we want to kind of be in the area that you're dreaming about." And I'm like, "I don't always know what the area is." I said, the second one, I knew exactly what the area was because I had been in that area the day before, and I had a weird feeling about it when I was in the area. I was actually doing a safety consultation for a business that didn't have an emergency action plan. So before I left, we put one together and walked around and started talking to the employees about where they'd go and take shelter. And it turns out that they needed to do it the next day because that's where the tornado hit, and they had a direct hit on their building.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that you do? Because you've talked about the emergency.
I'm a safety professional by trade. I've done that for the last 35 years.
What is it again?
A safety professional.
Okay.
I work with businesses on their safety and health management systems. And then I have a degree now in emergency management because I've had to respond to a number of disasters over my career. I worked at the Murrah bombing, I worked at the World Trade Center, and I went to Hurricane Katrina, and then all the storms here. It's definitely a skill you can use.
Oh, wow. So like with Katrina and with the World Trade Center, what is it that you did?
I worked with OSHA's National Disaster Response Team, and we would go down and work with employers to make sure that they're protecting their employees while they're doing cleanup and recovery efforts. My first assignment at Katrina was to do an inspection of Charity Hospital to identify what hazards were present for the people coming in to do the cleanup. My partner was out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and between the two of us, we walked that entire building. And it was originally built in 1752. It was the oldest public hospital in North America, and they've just added on and added on and added on. And it's a block and a half from the Superdome. So there was definitely some weird things that happened as we were walking through that building. Things moving out of the corners of your eye. Your partner's in front of you, but something's moving behind you. Just really, one of those days you walk through and you're like, this is creepy. Something's not right here.
And I've actually heard folks, and I'll probably put this out on Twitter as a question too, as like the most haunted locations that people experience. There's a lot of folks that I've heard say hospitals.
Yeah. Charity Hospital, like I said, it's been there for a long time. A lot of people have died there. A lot of people died during the storms there. So it was one of those that you definitely could tell that there were spirits in that building.
Now, because like you say, you're more sensitive to weather, but while you were there, were you getting any kind of impressions from different people there? Like, oh, something here is angry, or something's telling me to open this door and go down this hallway.
Yeah, I just really knew there was something there. I couldn't pick up on how they were feeling. I couldn't tell any emotions, but I could tell that they were there. So, I mean, like I said, just to seeing things out of the corner of the eye that there couldn't have possibly been anybody else behind me.
Because it was just really the two of you, right?
Just two of us in the whole building.
Wow. Now, and this was a time when was it completely evacuated still, or were people coming back into normal?
It was, let's see, that happened on August 28th, and we were the first team from OSHA to go in September. So it was 2 or 3 weeks after the hurricane. So there were security guards at the door. There were a few people being let back into town. It had not been fully, people weren't coming back as a rule. It was people there doing cleanup that were coming in. So it wasn't like there was a chance somebody could have walked in. There was still no lights, no power, no elevator, no air conditioner. There was nothing electrical in the building. So, I mean, it couldn't have been anything, like that.
Wow. Now, going to a place, with high emotion again, the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any kind of feelings, experiences in that area?
They were still doing body recovery when I was there. So it was still pretty raw. It happened in September, and I didn't go till March or April. But they had it excavated all the way down to the bottom, and so we were working down in the pit. I definitely was uncomfortable there. I never could put a finger on it at the time. I wasn't really in tune with those senses back then. So I don't really know that I was picking up on it, but I was definitely ill at ease. But it's just because I think there was so much going on and so much emotion with the people who were actually working there.
Yeah.
I think I was picking up on a lot of that. It was very stressful, very intense, because they were all about hurry up and get it done, because they're still trying to find firefighters and police officers. So the firefighters are all focused on that. The police officers are all focused on that. The construction crews are just trying to get to the point where they can start actually figuring out what to do with the structure itself. They're trying to make sure that those walls stayed where they belonged and that the water wasn't coming in. Spent a lot of time at one of the churches nearby, because we would go there for our lunch. And that was one of probably the most peaceful places I have ever been. It was so serene and so beautiful. And we needed it after a day, working in those kind of conditions. It was just really difficult. But it was one of those places you could kind of decompress and you could kind of feel peace.
And I know, 9/11 is one of those things where everybody listening is going to have some kind of emotional response to it.
Mm-hmm.
So being there in the midst of it all has got to be a very heavy feeling.
Yeah, it was, and it was definitely worth going. It was good to be able to do something to help.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people, they find a lot of there's a lot of things that are cathartic about being able to help, and it's one of the reasons I don't mind going and working in disaster, because I know that I can do some good. And, I feel like if that's the service I can provide to our citizens, to our country, to our state, then I'm there to help if I can. That's
very cool. That was actually, I was a senior in high school when that happened. And that was one of the things that pushed me to become a firefighter. I'm a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
Very cool. And is there any chance of your stories going into some of these like a New Orleans situation or a tornado situation? You know, is it all paranormal for you, or are you hitting some of that high stress, high
I
emotion?
I have one of the books has a very high stress situation that's a disaster that's not like anything we've had happen before. But I'm taking a lot of the lessons learned from those events and taking them into this imaginary world that I've created. I have written some other books that involve some disaster. I've tried really hard to write a story about my experiences with the Murrah bombing. It's still just a little too close to home, and I've really struggled to try to get anything going. I keep thinking every year I'm going to write something, and I'll start a couple of weeks before the anniversary, and I just never can get through it. That was home. That hit way too close. I was about 6 blocks away when that bomb went off, so just way too close, and still not ready to write that one out. But I know at some point I'll get to it, and I think it's cathartic to try to write some of it out and get it onto paper.
The Murrah bombing, is that the Oklahoma City bombing?
The federal building here.
Okay. Yeah, again, being younger, the only time I've heard of it is the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right.
So, and that was how far from you?
I was about 6 blocks away when that happened. I was just north of the building, which the blast hit the north side of the building, and everything on the north side, the windows blew out, and everything on the south side, the windows were sucked out.
Oh, wow.
There's about 160, 170 buildings that had significant damage. I was working for the state as an asbestos inspector at the time. And so I was on my way to an inspection, and I just happened to be kind of over towards the state capitol when that happened. And that's relatively close. So I felt the shock wave go by. That concussive force was very strong. My first thought was, we've had an airplane crash in downtown because we have an airport that flies over downtown. Had no idea it was anything so nefarious as a terrorist attack. I went on to do my inspection and got called out of my inspection to return to the office, drop off my state car, and return home because we've had threats against state employees.
Oh, wow.
So anything related to government was kind of at risk there. And for about 24 hours, we were on lockdown, not to come to work. And as soon as they realized they needed our help, then we got called in and started going back to work. So once we knew it was safe for us, then we were right back into it. So I spent about a month and a half up there working in that area.
Wow. Definitely a turn from what I thought we were going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, really, you've been involved in some way or another of some really, really emotionally stressing situations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're writing, are you trying to recreate some of those feelings?
I definitely am pulling those feelings and emotions out. It may not be to the same degree. It is definitely for me because I'm able to kind of channel that and at least get it out for a little bit. And so we're going to have some very emotional scenes. There's going to be things that happen to our characters that are going to be a roller coaster ride. There'll be ups and downs. I try to keep it lighthearted as much as I can, but there's some very deep subjects that we're going to get into with the Veritas Codex series.
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about like ghost season, Bigfoot, and stuff like that. But these books are getting kind of deep.
Yeah, they will, and they're not always pleasant. Some of them get a little dark. The Devil's Codex book, the Monk's Grimoire, that was my first opportunity to really kind of let myself go and really get into some dark days. And fortunately I got through it really quick, so I didn't kind of wallow in it. Which sometimes, as a writer, you feel the emotions of your characters as much as you give into the page. It comes back to you. So when the characters are having a bad day, I have to kind of step back and say, you know what, that's not the real world. That's not me. That's Lauren. That's Rowan. That's the other characters. That's not me. I'm okay.
You have a character named Rowan?
I can't. Rowan is the love interest. Yeah.
That is my oldest daughter's name.
Well, Rowan is a guy, so it's it's one of those names that's good either way. I like that name a lot, and he was the hardest one to name. I changed his name probably a dozen times trying to find the right name for this hero because he really does have, he's the strong male lead, and he's Lauren's other half. So we've got to have a good. If she's a strong woman, we need a strong man that can handle her. So it was really hard to find his name, but that's the name that finally stuck, and it was like once I hit it, it's like that's it, that's the name.
Yeah, well, you picked a good one. I like that one.
Thank you.
Now, what do you do, like, because like you said, with this book, you got kind of dark.
Uh-huh.
How did you get there?
Well, anytime you're dealing with the devil, it's not going to be pretty. There's no sunshines and roses in it. And part of it was just where I set it. They start out in Egypt, but they end up very quickly in Prague in the Czech Republic.
Okay.
And I had some friends that were from there, so I kind of knew a little bit about the area, and I had never been there myself. But again, I lived nefariously through my friends. So I had used some of the stories from them, little things, little details. And then turned it into Slovenia, which has some really unique places that are dark and creepy, and the old plague churches where the bones are stored, and so I used the setting to really kind of flavor the tone of the book, because we get into a conflict with dark forces. I wanted to make sure the people felt the air of the city and the town and the areas that we visit.
That's cool. Did you do any like summoning of the devil or anything like that to get into character?
I don't personally summon the devil.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I mean, you said you got pretty deep.
Yeah, not quite that deep, but I definitely, I listened to a lot of the old. Yeah.
What did you do, Betsy?
Quite a bit. I got into the Book of Revelations quite a bit. I got into some of the other mythos about end of days and the doomsday apocalypse prophecies and some of the other religions. And I looked at a little bit of the Sumerian legends. I play a lot on the Sumerian legends because those are some of the oldest. So I always try to pull in from different eras. I'm not working with one time zone, so to speak. So yeah, that's some of the things that I did.
Now, with you personally, what was your favorite? I don't necessarily want to say like a location or something like that you wrote about. What is your favorite situation, in your books that you've had that kind of surprised you? We're like, oh, man, I'm proud of that.
That's a good question. I think the whole brother-sister dynamic with Lauren and her brother Michael.
Uh-huh.
That one, I've got family members that are always kind of one-uppy on everything, and so I've kind of got some personal experiences with that. Not to the same degree that Lauren does, but just the two of them finding a path through and coming together to work through this this mystery and coming up with the right answer. I loved how that came together in book 3, the Alien Accord. That ending to me was one of my favorites. I love all my books. It's like picking your favorite child. I can't do it, but that was one of those things I was just really proud of, being able to bring those two together and let them solve their problems. I let them handle it. I just stood back and just kind of facilitated like a therapist.
Because I mean, I really, you've created these characters and you're just like in your mind, just letting it play out. So
Exactly. Sometimes they don't do what I want them to, and when they don't, sometimes that's better than what I had in mind.
Now, do you write about anything else? Do you have any like books that aren't a part of the series that you've written?
I do, but I haven't published them yet. This is the ones I decided to get my feet wet on, and then eventually I'm going to move. Once I get going on this really well, then I've got some other books and mysteries, and I've got a piece of women's fiction that I promised my friends I'm coming back to. I've got a couple of murder mysteries that I've written. I've got one that's set down in New Orleans. It's pretty dark. Use some of the mysteries that I learned while I was down there. So yeah, I've got some other things, coming down the pike, but right now I'm really focused on the Veritas Codex.
That's exciting. If you ever get stuck on names, if you just have a character that's a radio host that has a really, really cool voice, Jordan's a great name.
Jordan is a great name. I actually have a couple friends named Jordan. So yeah, that could happen.
You never know, right?
You never know. It's actually my great grandmother's maiden name was Jordan.
Get out.
Yeah.
We're practically twins, Betsy.
Practically related.
Practically there. All right. So is there one thing that you want to leave our listeners with, to really get them engaged, to have them want to get this book like right now?
You know what? I don't know why anybody would not want to get these books. They're so much fun. There's so much excitement. There's so many different things that happen. And now's a really great time to get caught up because book 5 will hopefully be out before the end of the year. And I know you want to read them all, so why not start now?
That's right. Go get it. Now, how big would you say the books are? Are we talking like Stephen King, The Stand?
No, probably not that long, and certainly not Outlander. That's probably one of the biggest books I've ever read was the Outlander series because we're on book 9 with that one, and they're all like 200,000 words. My audiobooks run about 7 to 8 hours long if you do the audiobooks, which they're out on Audible. The first 3 are out. I have had friends that sat down and read it in an evening. Of course, then they didn't get any sleep, and they called me in the morning. I missed work because of you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. So, it depends on how fast you read and how much time you can dedicate. But I'm told it's a pretty quick read.
That's really cool. Now, the audiobooks, that's a cool little twist there, too. Do you read them, or do you have somebody else read them?
I have a wonderful voice actor by the name of Carrie Coelho who reads those books, and she's actually from the Pacific Northwest. I was thrilled to death when we found her. We auditioned. There were 10 total that my publisher brought to me to listen to, and she was the last one, and I think he was really saving the best for last because she's fantastic. So she reads the audiobooks, and she does a terrific job with them. I couldn't be happier. I have no desire to read the audiobooks. I have a real job. I have a family. I have other books to write. So, I'm perfectly willing to let somebody else read those books, and she did a great job.
All right. Tell us where people can find you, where they can find your books.
All right. You can find me I'm on all the social medias. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. That's new. I have 30 followers right now on TikTok. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm learning. So, I'm out there now on TikTok. I also have a website. It's author.betseykulakowski.com. You might have to Google that. It's BetseyKulakowski.com. My books you can get on Amazon, Kobo, Kindle, Google, Apple, anywhere you can get a book. If you want to go buy it at your local independent bookstore, you may have to ask them to order it because we print on demand to save trees, because that's kind of important to Lauren. So anywhere you buy a book, you can find it, even Walmart or Target.com.
Very cool, and congratulations on these series.
Thank you.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've had fun with them. I hope my readers do too. I got some great reviews back so far. Love to hear the readers' feedback. Always appreciate a nice review. So thanks to those who do that.
Now, you said you're on Twitter as well?
I am. @Bakooli is my Twitter handle.
Spell that.
And it's BKOOLIE. It's a play on my name.
Bakooli.
Bakooli. Betsey Kulakowski, Bakooli.
All right, so make sure you go out there, folks, if you're wanting to look it up, if you're wanting to find the books, and if you want to connect with the author herself. Great way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you're on TikTok, I know most of you are because I get messages from you. Go follow her. Get her to, how many do you need to have a Facebook or a TikTok live? What is it, 1,000?
I have no idea. I don't
Get her to 1,000 so she can do some lives and do some behind the scenes of her stories. I think that would be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Betsey, thank you so much for coming on the show for us. It's been really cool.
Yeah, Jordan, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And when the next book comes out, let me know, and we'll be plugging it and stuff, okay?
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Betsey, and we will be talking again.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Betsey. Thank you for being on the show, and thank all of you out there for listening each week. I do appreciate you. If you haven't been able to connect with me on social media yet, definitely go out there and join our Facebook group, Fireside Paranormal Hub. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. A big announcement coming up here soon, so make sure you're involved with that. You're going to really like it. All the other social medias, your TikToks, your Twitters, @Fireside Parapod, Parapod. Also on Instagram. I enjoy getting all the messages y'all are sending me. I try to answer everyone I get, as long as you don't sound like spam. If you sound like spam, I probably don't answer you, but if it sounds like you're a real person, I really do reach out and try to talk with you and get to know you a bit. So feel free to send me messages there. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, make sure you rate and review. Those really help me out. I do appreciate everyone I get, and it helps the show push forward. If you're a group or an author and you want to be on the show, make sure to reach out to me, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. Again, just let me know what's going on and we can get you on the schedule. And if you haven't checked out firesideparanormal.com, go see it, go check it out, click on that merch page and get yourself some sweet Fireside Paranormal merch. We got t-shirts, cups, mugs, tote bags, just about anything you can think of, pillows, a lot of fun designs. I try to keep putting out new designs as much as possible so that you guys like them. And that is all the time we have for this week. So until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.